What's up, Elite Army? This is your kinda well, kinda toxic host, Sarah Rittendale, bringing you another episode of Wellish. Elite, welcome back to another episode of Wellish Podcast, a very special episode, if I do say so myself. If you didn't gather it from the title, it was my birthday on Thursday. Technically, right now, my birthday is tomorrow, so I'm saying I'm 26 for the first time, and it's actually not even true yet, and I'm soaking up every last moment of 25, because something about 26 sounds elderly to me, which I know is probably a little ridiculous to any listener that I have that's over the age of 26 years old, but you know what? I can't help it. That's the way I feel. I am turning a leaf and deciding that that's something to be excited about. There's no reason to put any more pressure on myself that I should be farther along in life or that I should have things figured out that I don't yet or whatever else just based off of a number. There's no reason to put a time limit on yourself. It's just another year that I'm alive, and that's something for me to celebrate. I also am turning a new leaf on my birthday by actually acknowledging my birthday. I don't know why. I just felt like I had been disappointed on my birthday for several years in a row, several years back, and for that reason, I just felt like I shouldn't make a big deal out of my birthday. I shouldn't get my hopes up that it's going to be anything special, because it would always lead me to that like birthday disappointment. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, I probably sound like a whack job, but it's like you hype yourself up that you think it's going to be great and people are going to show up for you and people are going to tell you how much they love you. And then especially as you get older and you're not in school anymore, you get like 2 texts on your birthday and you're like, oh, okay, so I have nobody in my life. That's really great for me. Or you realize people that are in your life all the time that don't remember to say happy birthday to you. And you're like, oh, okay, so you forgot about me. Or you're in a shitty relationship and the guy doesn't do anything for you, doesn't show up for you. That was mostly my trauma, is that like I was in this relationship that like at my birthday was never celebrated, but I always went like above and beyond for theirs because naturally that's what toxic relationships are. So it just kind of like built up all of this ideology that I don't want to acknowledge my birthday, because if I ignore that it's my birthday, then I, like I said, can't be disappointed. But all of that has changed because my birthday is something to celebrate, and who gives a fuck if anybody else celebrates it? I'm celebrating it. It's the fact that I have been alive for 26 years and I'm doing my best to kick ass in these fucking years that I'm being given. So it doesn't matter what anybody else fucking says. Like, why would it matter for somebody else to validate my birthday, to validate that my birth is a great event? I'm going to validate that because it really doesn't matter to anybody else. It matters to me. Might sound like super deep for absolutely no reason, but you know what? Your girl, she's got, weird overthinking brain things, and that's why we're all sitting here today. I know I can't be alone on that. So I wanted to talk to you guys about 26 things that I've learned in 26 years. When I originally thought of this topic, I thought I have a whole podcast of things that I'm learning. How am I supposed to pick just 26? But the 26 that I'm going to talk to you guys about today are 26 things that I live by, that I sat and reflected on and thought, what impacts me for the rest of my life that I learned at some point from birth to today and continuously impacts me since the day that I learned it. So I am going to share these 26 things with you. Some of them are very practical things. Some of them are definitely self-improvement things. Some of them are relationship, family, friends. There's an array of different things that I've learned. So hopefully there's something in my 26 that you can then apply to your life and add it onto your repertoire of things that you are learning in your life. So without further ado, these are 26 things that I have learned in my 26 years of life. My first one is little upgrades matter. No matter what the upgrade is, it makes a difference. My Chromecast on my TV broke. I decided to pay $20 more when it broke and get the upgraded Chromecast that comes with the little remote on the TV. I cannot tell you how much better my life experience is that I have a remote for my TV that I can use to access everything instead of fighting with the Chromecast and my phone and trying to get things to connect and it going back and forth. I can literally just say what show I want to watch into my little remote now, and I feel fucking rich because of it. Or if you want to think of more like self-improvement things, like setting a boundary with somebody and recognizing when they actually follow that boundary. The other day, my boyfriend came up to me after he was done working these long hours, and I had been laying on the couch for those long hours watching Sex and the City. And he just is like, all right, let's go. Like, we're going. And I was like, you cannot just get up and demand that I jump as soon as you're ready now. Like, let me get to the end of my episode. And then the next day he came up and was like, hey, how much longer on your episode do you have left, when he was done working? And I was like, thank you for acknowledging it. And it made me feel good to recognize this small upgrade. And it made him feel good that I recognized that he had made an effort. So paying attention to those little life upgrades and knowing that they do matter. So put an effort towards even just small things. They make a difference. The second one is, if you ever are in a pinch for money, I do not like loan apps or anything like that. I like the idea that you can always go to BioLife. There is always a center that you can donate plasma. It might not be called BioLife. That's what mine has been called in several states that I've lived in, but I think there's other ones. But essentially, you can always donate plasma if you're in need of money. It's not a ton of money. It doesn't make up for an income, but it allows you to make $70 a week without having to pick up an extra job. It's a great way to make some beer money. That's what I used it for in college, but it's also a really good way to pay off a credit card, that you don't have to put money from your paycheck into the credit card, that you can pay it over time with and not have to like continue to accrue interest because you're paying it off with your plasma donating money. Super easy, super great. Number 3 is, if you learn to accept vomiting, you will get good at it. If you continue to resist, like when you're drunk and you're out and you are like, am I nauseous? No, I'm going to talk myself out of this. I'm not nauseous. I'm going to keep having myself a good night. I'm not giving into this. I'm not going to throw up. That is when you end up spraying vomit all over the dance floor. Hi, yes, that has absolutely happened to me. And I got kicked out of the bar at bar close. It was embarrassing. So in order to prevent spraying vomit either in an area that you don't want to spray vomit in, being able to control it. If you just accept that feeling in that moment, go to the bathroom, you'll have control over making it into, like, I literally have like a whole stance. Like, I pull my own hair back. I fucking put my legs like straddled around the toilet so I'm directly over it. Just go right at the fucking toilet hole and vomit right in. You're out of the bathroom. No big deal. Nobody is any the wiser. Number 4 is prioritizing your friends while you can, making sure that you're appreciating them in your life while they are there, because the truth is, they don't last forever. Maybe you'll continue to gain new friends over time in new situations, but your circumstances are always going to change. And let's be honest, we don't make our life decisions to ensure that our friends stay in our life. We might alter our life decisions to make sure a significant other or family stays in our life. But a lot of the time, unless you have like a really unique, great friendship, you don't make life choices based off of that friendship. So the friendships don't stay in your life forever. So really cherishing and appreciating great friendships while you have them. And even if those friends do stay in your life forever, it's not always the same dynamic, you know, like obviously I still have my friends from when I lived in Chicago, from when I lived in Iowa, from when I lived in North Carolina, but we're all long distance friends now. The relationship dynamic has changed. You have to upkeep the relationship in a different way, and you're not as close as you are when you're spending every moment of every day together, like I was when I lived in my sorority house with 5 of my best friends. You know, we talk once in a while, sending Snapchat memories to each other now. I love them forever, but the dynamics of the relationship has changed. So it's just really cherishing and appreciating those friendships while you have them, because it's just the truth. They don't last forever. Number 5, don't say anything you would not write on a chalkboard for the whole world to see about yourself, about other people, about anything. If you wouldn't want everybody in the world to know it, if you wouldn't want everybody to see it, just keep your fucking mouth shut. it also might take a little effort to do that. Like I am somebody that spits everything out that comes to my mind. I don't know why, even if I don't want to say it, it's like OCD. Like I have to just fucking say it. Otherwise the world is going to end. Like I'm like, Mom, I got my nipples pierced after I told myself 100 times that I was never going to tell her. I couldn't help it. Like I just like spill it out to her because I just feel like that compulsive need to do that. So it might take a little effort to get yourself to not say it, but the thought and the feeling that you have to say it will eventually pass. And you might have to distract yourself if you have to in order to make sure that you don't say it. But if you're not comfortable with multiple people in your life knowing that you said that about yourself or said that about somebody else, don't say anything at all. Number 6, if you feel that somebody is flipping the story around on you, that they're saying whatever is convenient in order to benefit their point of view, if you feel manipulated, if you feel gaslit, if you feel like they're being sketchy, they're leaving something out, they're lying about something, something's just not adding up with them, you are right. You are right. Do not let them convince you otherwise. The 7th one is if you feel like you don't belong, instead of trying to prove that you do or people please your way into belonging, ask yourself why you feel that way. Why do you feel like you don't belong? What is happening? What are you experiencing? What are you perceiving that you don't belong in this situation? And sometimes you're right. You don't belong. Do you know how many circumstances and situations I can look back on and think, yeah, I did not belong there. And I knew it the whole time, but I just kept sitting through it. Or sometimes you're wrong and you might just be feeling insecure or feeling worried or feeling like people are judging you when they're not. It's just your own fear-based thoughts that are happening. So asking yourself then, what would have to happen in order for you to feel like you belong? And ask yourself, is that going to be something that's in your control or out of your control? Because if it's out of your control, for the reason that you feel like you don't belong, like if it's other people's behavior that's making you feel that way, that was probably a situation that you don't belong in. But if it's something that's in your control, again, you're having fear-based thoughts, you need to just, maybe gain a little bit more clarity. You need to express those feelings to somebody, communicate a little bit, try to gain some understanding of why you feel that way. Maybe it's something within you and it's nobody making you feel that way. It's you making you feel that way. Number 8 is if you feel like something is off, it probably is. You think somebody doesn't like you. You walk into a room and you feel like people are just talking shit about you. You feel like this relationship isn't working. You got vibes that they're hiding something. They're cheating on you. You feel like you're not doing the right thing. Like maybe you're doing something you're not supposed to and you have this like guilty vibe that, like I said, you're not doing the right thing. If you feel that way, it's probably true. Your first thought intuition might not be right. Again, just like number 7, it could be something fear-based. Like let's say you're used to your old friend group constantly talking shit about you behind your back. So now anytime you walk into a situation where a group of people are having a conversation while you walk in, it's your immediate fear that they're talking shit about you. But the moment you walk in, everybody is welcoming and kind and you kind of know that it's just you being in your head. But if the thought lingers, if you're continuing to overthink about it, if you're problem solving it, if it really genuinely makes sense in your mind, you're probably right and it's probably true. Number 9 is if something isn't right for you, it's not going to click and stick. And you can use that as something to trust and rely on when you do hear things and you don't follow through with them. Like let's say somebody tells you that the best thing for you to do in your morning routine is to not look at your phone for the first hour, but you just like can't really seem to do it and it doesn't seem to really affect you that much. It's not really for you maybe. And you can also use it as a means of letting things go, like scrolling on social media and seeing something that explains how to be better at whatever. And you're reading it and it's just not necessarily like sticking with you, but you feel like, oh, I should read this because my favorite influencer told me that this is what changed her life. it's not sticking with you, it's not resonating with you, and that's okay. Everybody resonates with different things, and that doesn't mean that you're not going to get to the same place that you're trying to get. You can just let that go and wait for something new to present itself in your life that actually will click and stick in your head. 10 is you don't understand something until you understand it. Even if you're smart enough to logically understand what it is trying to say, even if you have heard it a million times, you don't understand something until you understand it. I heard "you are imperfectly perfect" 100,000 times from the time I was young, but it wasn't until the last couple years that I truly actually feel like I understood what that meant and understood that it's progress, not perfection, and that I have to give myself permission to not be perfect, and that I'm okay and whole for being both the things that I don't love about myself and work towards changing, and the things that I do absolutely love myself for. I had to hear it in 100 different ways. And one day I was driving and I was listening to a motivational speech by Matthew McConaughey, and I heard him say you have to give yourself permission to not be perfect. And the phrase "imperfectly perfect" has forever registered in my mind after that. I fully understand what that means. I'm recently understanding what it means to live in the present. I've recently understood that you can't rely on all of these things to be happy, like what we talked about in last week's episode. It's all these recent things that I've learned, but I've heard them 1,000 times in the past. But it's not until I fully, truly understand it that I actually understand it. 11, standing up for yourself is much more normal and expected than you're gassing it up to be inside of your head. It is conversational. It's not confrontational. And you'll realize that you're just talking like you always talk when you're standing up for yourself, compared to actually having to be like, "Hey, don't tell me that." It's not that big of a deal. And when you reflect, you're like, why have I not always been doing that? That's weird as fuck that I'm doing the bare minimum now by just standing up for myself. Number 12 is if two people are meant to be together, they will grow together. It will not be one person forcing another person in the relationship to live up to their perceived potential. Both parties will benefit off of each other and grow as individuals and grow together because they want to, not because somebody else is forcing you to. 13 is practice makes perfect for absolutely everything. I only thought practice made perfect for things in the physical world. And while it is the physical world in which you are practicing, it is your mentality. It is the way that you think about things. It is not going to just happen because you logically understand how to do something. You have to practice it. You have to practice setting boundaries. You have to practice showing up in social situations as a confident person. You have to practice approaching men. You have to practice being sexy in the bedroom. You have to practice standing up for yourself. You know, there's not going to be this one time that you now understand it and you're just going to be fucking phenomenal at it. You're not going to pick up a paintbrush and suddenly become Picasso. You're not going to pick up a baseball and suddenly become Javier Baez. You have to practice and practice and practice and practice in order to get good at what you are doing. It's not going to be one time. And I never knew that. And I'm so grateful that that's one of the things that I know now, because it makes it so much easier and gives me so much more motivation to try and show up and do those things. Because if I don't show up and do those things, I'm never going to be able to do it. And it's never going to come easily to me, and it's never going to feel comfortable to me, and I'm always going to be disappointed in myself for not following through with what I said I wanted to do. Number 14 is stop feeling obligated to read between the lines and guessing how someone is feeling. If they want to bring it up to you, if they want to communicate and fix the problem, fix whatever issue they have, great, absolutely. I'm happy to have a healthy conversation with you. But if you choose to not say anything to me, I'm going to continue and live on my merry way. I'm not going to respond to your passive aggressive comments. I'm not going to sit here and guess as to why you're upset. I'm going to continue to live my life how I enjoy my life and not allow you and your salty attitude to impact my life if you're not going to stand up and say what it is that's bothering you. 15 is your parents are normal fucking people just like you. They are experiencing life for the very first time, tentatively dependent on, my belief in reincarnation, but that's besides the point. Just like you are. They're not these godlike creatures up on the pedestal that we have held them on our entire lives that know everything and are the oracle to everything that we should be doing in our life. They are people just like us. On that same note, number 16 is if you want to keep family in your adult life, you have to make an effort to get to know that person as a person, not as the relationship that you've been used to your entire life. You have to break that cycle of the parent-child relationship, sibling-sibling relationship, aunt, uncle, niece, nephew relationship, grandparent-grandchild relationship. You actually have to put in an effort to get to know that person and get to know their interests and make an effort, just like you would in a relationship with a friend or a coworker, or a significant other, whatever. You have to put in that same effort in your adult life with your family members too. You do always have that like cushion to fall back on. Like I know that I could go a month without talking to my sister and I could still hit her up like no time has passed. So like that's the benefit to family, that they'll always be there for you, hopefully, most likely. But if you actually want a genuine close relationship with that person, you'll have to put in an effort for it. Otherwise, the relationship will fade. Once again, you can always, come back to that person and count on that person and call that person if you need them, but you're not going to have a true close relationship if you don't make an effort to maintain and upkeep that relationship in an adult, mutual, peer-like way. Number 17, life never looks exactly how you think it will in your head. And this was a really hard pill for me to swallow. For me specifically, it came when my boyfriend, who I love very much, has a kid. That's never what I pictured for myself. And so it was really hard for me to kind of let go of this image that I had in my head for what my life would look like. But really, at the end of the day, if you try to control absolutely everything in your life, you really end up pretty miserable because it's not in your control. You have to go with the flow and then you choose what you are willing to accept and not accept in your life and go from there. 18 is there is never a magical one-time fix. You have to keep repeating in your head over and over and over and over and over again what you need to fix. You have to remind yourself consistently to let go of a trauma that you once held. You have to remind yourself consistently that you are safe in a social situation that you're feeling anxious. You have to remind yourself consistently that you're going to get through this hard time that you're experiencing. There's never going to be a time that you read something or see something or feel something, think something, and then you're going to be like, oh, I'm cured. I never feel that way anymore. You're always going to have to remind yourself for a specific circumstance or as new circumstances come up and those feelings come back up again and you are experiencing emotions again for a different reason, you'll have to remind yourself over and over and over again in those new situations too. So it's always going to be a repetitive process. It's not going to be a one-time fix-all situation. 19 is while you can cut anybody out from your life, it's not always feasible. Sometimes you do still have to interact with these people that you don't want to interact with. So knowing how to conduct yourself with those people in your life is really important. You're not going to just be the same you that you are with the people that you're most comfortable with. You're going to learn how to behave so you can get through that situation with that person that you don't necessarily enjoy in a way that you feel satisfied with. 20 is if something doesn't come naturally to you, you have to give yourself permission to follow through with it. You have to give yourself permission to not be perfect. You have to give yourself permission to be in love. You have to give yourself permission to trust people. You have to give yourself permission to show up in a situation confident. You have to give yourself permission to let go of something that's been paining you. You have to give yourself permission to do those things. And when you say that to yourself, you say it out loud to yourself, you are able to move in the direction that you want to move and can release these like pent up emotional ties that you have to what you think might happen if you do that. 21 is if you eat well and you drink your water, your brain will function properly and it won't drive you nuts as much as it is. Obviously, a lot of the time mental illnesses do come with chemical disorders in our brain. So I'm not saying, you're cured if you eat well and drink water. But I am saying that when I do eat well and drink water, I'm not really anxious. I don't really overthink much. I don't see the typical mental health issue patterns come into my head as much as they do when I'm completely dehydrated and starving. Just saying. 22 is bite the bullet on the initial cost and learn to do all of your beauty upkeep at home. Paying for the whole like UV light and all of the nail tips and the gel nail polish and the drill and all of that stuff and doing my own nails at home, my own acrylic nails at home, has saved me so much money, and I can take them off and put them back on as I please without having to take the time of going to the salon, which has been super nice. There's so many at-home things, like you can do the eyelash lift and tints now. There's at-home eyelash extensions. You can use self-tanner. You can do your own facials at home. God forbid I say you can dye your own hair at home. Maybe that one you want to save for the salon because that still kind of scares me. But really, like, I cut these curtain bangs into my hair. So I did just buy shears off of Amazon, and I'm going to try to trim my own bangs so I don't have to go and pay money to somebody to just like cut a couple hairs off of my head, that I can try to follow a YouTube video and do it myself. And that's the thing too, is there's YouTube. You can learn how to do so much shit on your own at home now that it really saves you a lot of money to do it that way. 23 is things will be uncomfortable or awkward or scary until you just do it and prove to yourself that all is okay, that the world didn't fall apart and every fear that you had actually came into place, that the people didn't judge you, that you didn't fumble over your words, that they actually understood your point. When you actually just do it, you'll know that everything is okay. And no amount of overthinking is going to take away from the awkwardness or uncomfortability or fear that you have leading up to the event. 24 is once you're aware, you can never go back to being unaware again. You have to coincide your behavior with what you want from then moving forward. You cannot go backwards and unknow something. Like once you know that somebody is cheating on you, you have to choose the behavior that's going to best match what it is you want with your life. If you want a relationship that you can trust and rely on, you're going to have to end this relationship with the information that you now know. If you read a self-help book and you learn that setting boundaries would be the answer to all of your issues, or that people pleasing is the reason why you're so miserable in all of your relationships, you're going to have to behave accordingly to have the experience that you want. You can't unknow the information that you already know. And if you just sit in the space of knowing and not doing anything about it, you'll be miserable. 25 is we are more likely to interact with people that we don't necessarily vibe with, that don't understand us fully, that we don't have a lot in common with, that do things that we don't particularly like, than a person that we really do vibe with, that we really do get each other and love each other and come together on a lot of things and just have this like really awesome kick-ass relationship with each other. You're more likely to interact with people that aren't like that than are. And so when that happens, we're so likely to just jump on the opportunity that's right in front of us. And a lot of the time that is the person that we don't necessarily click with, because we think like, oh, this is my opportunity to have a friend or to have a relationship. And we settle for relationships that aren't really great for us because they're right in front of us and accessible, compared to being brave and being selective with who we want to have in our lives. And last but not least, I saved the best for last. Number 26 is your best self will always change. They will show up differently dependent on the scenario that you're showing up in. But you have to remember to always ask yourself, what would your elite self do? What would they say? How would they think? How would they show up? What would that person do? It's going to change dependent on who you're with, where you are, your confidence level in that given situation, how much information or understanding you have in a certain situation, the level that you are comfortable or uncomfortable. All of these things will factor into who your best self is in that moment. So allow yourself to ask in each moment who your best self is, and then show up as that person, and you will always feel satisfied with how you interact and live your life and show up as yourself for yourself. Well, sisters, that's it. Those are my 26 things that I've learned in the last 26 years. I hope you were able to take something away from the 26 things. I sure as hell know that they help me live every single day in my life. In several scenarios, these are the things that, I give people advice on when they are having issues in their life. These are typically the things that I always come back to and tell people about. So I hope you were able to get something out of at least one of these 26 things. Thank you so much for listening. If you didn't wish me a happy birthday, totally don't worry about it. You can absolutely still message me and say happy birthday. I will not be mad. Anyways, thanks again for listening. You can follow me at sarah.rittendale on Instagram, and you can follow the podcast on Instagram as well at Wellish Podcast, and you can follow me on TikTok at Sarah Rittendale, no dot. You can find me there just for all sorts of life updates, self-improvement information, all the good stuff. Also, make sure to check out Wellish's website, wellishpodcast.wordpress.com, because your girl is saving money and not paying for a domain name anymore. So wellishpodcast.wordpress.com. Check it out there for blog posts, episode updates, information about me, about the show, all the good stuff. I appreciate you all. Thank you for celebrating with me, and I will talk to you next Monday. Bye, guys.